Years ago, I recognized my kinship with all living things, and I made up my mind that I was not one bit better than the meanest on earth. I said then, and I say now, that while there is a lower class, I am in it. While there is a criminal element, I am of it. While there is a soul in prison, I am not free. And that quote came from Eugene Debs. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Surviving the Matrix. My name is Maxwell Egan. Look, I've got a lot that I'd like to say to you on the show tonight. On these programs, ever since I started doing these shows, I've been trying to make people aware of energy and make people aware of how this matrix that we live in actually works. Now, obviously, everything that I've said on these shows is my perspective. Of course, it can't be anything else. It's where it's coming from. It comes from me. It's my perspective. You don't have to take any of it seriously. I mean, you can disregard all of it altogether if you want. You can just take it as the mindless ramblings of an aging buffoon. But everything that I've tried to talk to you about on these shows, I've been trying to wake people up to the power that they've got, wake people up to the spiritual side of themselves that is mostly hidden from a lot of people. I've been trying to do it through reaching people through their left brain, because that's basically where most people are. Most people are stuck in the left brain. Now, on last week's show, I had quite a lot to say about the New Age movement and about how people are too intent on just focusing on the good instead of focusing on all information. So what I've been trying to say with all of this is that information is just information. I know you've heard me say that a lot, but information is just information. So I figured that I might just leave all the news and forget all about that. We know there's bad stuff going on. We don't need to hear me talking about it. There's enough people talking about all the bad stuff that's going on, the swine flu, the vaccinations. We all know by now not to take the vaccination. If you're someone out there who doesn't know by now not to take the vaccination, then you're probably already dead. But I think that that's getting a fair amount of coverage. I actually don't think they're going to get away with it, folks. I think they're stumbling over themselves drastically. I think the word is just rampant about these vaccinations. We've got 60% of nurses saying they're not going to take the vaccinations. I mean, I don't think they're going to get away with it at all. I think we're pretty well winning on the swine flu and the vaccination front. So I wanted to sort of leave all of that behind for this show. And what I want to talk about, I want to talk a little bit about energy with this show and the state of the world and what we can do about it. And I want to particularly talk about the goddess energy. And I know all these Christians out there are saying, what do you mean goddess? What's this pagan stuff? Well, when I say goddess energy, I'm just talking about the female side of this human energy. You know, when I think of the goddess energy, I think of every woman as a goddess. This is just the way I think. This is the way a lot of the New Age people think. But, I mean, it's all good. I'm not saying anything against God by using the word goddess, and I'm not thinking anything pagan, okay? I'm just using the term. So this goddess energy, the power of the female of our species, this is what needs to be harnessed. This is something that has, well, it's one of the most downtrodden aspects of our society. What's been done to the females in our society? They've been turned into, well, I won't use derogatory terms, but objects of lust, or housewives, or meek, frail, the weaker sex type image. Powerless, talking about their nails or hair all day. This is the way they're portrayed on television, and this is what the mindset that a lot of young girls and things get. I mean, and a lot of women in our society are pretty well victims of our society. And if you look in history, you look at the history of the world, and even if you go back and look at some pagan traditions, even if you look there, I mean, like I said, folks, you've got to look at everything. So, I mean, I look at all of this stuff. You've got to, in order to be able to gain some sort of perspective. It's no good just having one perspective. You've got to look at everything in order to figure out what's going on. So even when you look at some of these pagan things, you find that the main power there was the goddess power. When you look at ancient Egyptology, you look at, there was Isis. She was the main power. You look at all the Egyptian pharaohs. The pharaohs were basically chosen by their wives. The queens of Egypt were the powerful ones. They just chose the pharaoh as their husband. But it was the woman who held all the power. You've got the Virgin Mary, the Holy Mother. You've got Mother Earth. It's always the female energy. You see what I'm saying? All of these traditions are all feminine traditions. And it is this feminine energy that has been so squashed in our modern society. And even within religions, the women are always the subservient ones, when the women are really the powerful ones. You know, if you look at nature, well, I mean, if you're in the wild, if you had to choose a fight between a male lion and a female lion protecting her young, I'm sure you would choose the male. Not that you would want to have a fight with the lion at all, but it's the same in any situation. Now, you go the male rather than the female protecting her young, because a female protecting her young will usually get the upper hand of most things, and that's throughout nature. The female is far more powerful than the male, and we need to be able to harness some of that female energy. Attempting to connect with some of that female energy was the entire reason that I actually put out the film The Calling, which was a remake of a bunch of earlier stuff that I did. But this was done at the advice of a young friend of mine who thought that if we added a more spiritualistic slant to it and maybe took out some of the pictures of blown up children, then we might be able to appeal to some of the female energy and get some female energy involved in this fight against the New World Order. And I believe that it is imperative that we do just that. And that's basically what I want to dedicate a lot of this show to tonight, ladies and gentlemen, to try to address the issue of what this truth movement, which is sort of being hijacked by the conspiracy culture, which is also being hijacked by the New Age culture, which is this whole conglomerate that we're involved in. I really want to try to put it in some sort of perspective and to try to make people just pause in what they're doing for a little bit, whether you're involved in religious gatherings, whether you're involved in New Age gatherings, whether you're involved in protesting, whether you're involved in New World Order research or what you're doing. If we could just get you to all pause for a moment and just combine your energies and try to look at the bigger picture of what's going on here and how we can address it. And look, I don't really know where I'm going with any of this, folks. I just think it's something that really needs addressing, and so I hope the words come out properly. Now, on last week's show, I was talking to you about how not all the world is beauty and love, and how we need to address the darkness in the world, but we need to do it without fear. See, this is a deception that's in the New Age movement. The talk of not acknowledging anything around you. The talk of to acknowledge something is to give power to it. See, that's not true. See, when you understand the true nature of prayer, when I've talked about this throughout my films, the true nature of prayer is your life is the prayer. Every feeling you have, every emotion that you have creates an electromagnetic field from your heart. Your heart actually charges the field around you based on your emotional center. This is absolutely how it works, folks. Your body is a quantum computer, and you generate an electromagnetic field with your heart. The best thing I can think of is an analogy that's given by Greg Braden in one of his talks, where he talks about a Native American friend of his who took him to a stone circle and did a rain prayer. And what he did was he put himself in the emotional state where the prayer had already been answered. In order to pray for rain, what he did was he stood there and he felt the rain on his skin. He tasted it on his lips. He could smell it running down the walls of the hut. He could feel it squishing between his toes. The ground was so muddy from so much soaking rain that had been. That's the physical, emotional state the Native American put himself in, and that was his prayer. Being in that emotional state, that's the prayer.